Hey everybody, this is Brett from Moonstream Crypto. I want to give you guys a quick update on the markets, let you know where I think Bitcoin is headed, what's going on in the markets overall, and maybe take a look at Solana and some altcoins. So with that, let's dive in. Here's a chart of Bitcoin as you can see, and the TLDR of this video, there's some very bullish signals that I'm seeing that most people aren't talking about. And I also want to tell you about a new research report that I've just released called Blood on the Streets and revised for 2025. So I'll tell you about that and where you can find that as well and link to it down below in the description. So this chart of Bitcoin on a daily time frame. So of course, these big red boxes, these are sellers. One of our custom indicators at cryptomastery.org visualizes where the confluence and the concentration of limit buy and sell orders are. The buy orders being in green, sell orders in red. So we've been watching these for some time now and lots of concentration here. So some resistance overhead between this $86,000 to $91,000 level. And so where I think we go from here, we're kind of rejecting at this 50-day exponential moving average. The analogy that we like to use is it's like the ice, the thick ice. If you're going to go out on the lake, you want to be above the thick ice and not just the thin ice. And so if we break above the 21-day exponential moving average in orange and above the green, that's solid. You're on double footing here. The 21-day exponentials like the thin ice, so that can certainly act as support. Once you start to lose that, you're kind of underwater. You're half underwater, but the thick ice here, that green line, is where you find the stronger support. Where things tend to get a little dicey is when price goes below both of them. That's really where you're drowning. And I'm saying you are, I mean Bitcoin's price. So as it got below the 50-day and rejected here, tried to stick its head up a bit into this sell block, failed, and we've been going down since then. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about why this is looking like a Wyckoff accumulation pattern, and all of this is really lining up. So stay till the end. I think you're going to get a lot out of this video. So with this down below, we came down to that 76K range, filled the CME gap that I've been talking about. Now we certainly could come back down and refill or retest that level. There's also a chance we come down to this 70K level. But for now, I want to point out and talk to you about this little blue sliver here. So I'm going to turn off our order block detector here for a second just to show you. This little sliver is the Fibonacci golden pocket. Many day traders use this on smaller time frames, equally as effective on larger time frames as well. So drawn from this bottom down here to the top as it came in right about there. The retracement of that, but the 0.618 price came right down to it. I wouldn't be surprised to come back down into this sort of 72K, 72.5K region to 74K region to fill and touch on that golden pocket. But at any rate, either way, there's multiple levels of support here, including this prior cycle top that was resistance for so many times. Breakouts usually happen on the third or fifth attempt. So we had maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the fifth attempt broke up. This one didn't really qualify. So with that in mind, I want to just point out that we're watching these buy blocks here, and I'll turn that back on real quick. But more importantly, on the weekly time frame, let me just jump over to that, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the M2 global liquidity, which is very important. On the weekly time frame, as I mentioned, let me just get over to this the buttons here and show you that the signal here, our trend strength indicator, is turning green, and so is our relative strength index pro, and that's showing bullish divergence. These green circles here are bullish divergence. These red circles here are bearish divergence. Not going to go into the weeds with you on that, but last time we've seen, and I'll turn on our early reversal indicator also, when these start to align, stay with me here, because when these start to align, we see huge moves in the markets, like back here in September of 2023, and again back in December and January of 2023. So those were both excellent areas to get in, as well as here in August of 2024, opening this up when we see alignment with these, the early reversal indicator, that's one of ours, which was an accidental discovery, and I believe it's signaling and seeing institutional programmatic buying and selling. Takes a lot of volume and momentum to move price in a reversal phase and to have that momentum to continue. So we had that here. We had the trend strength indicator here going above 20. Our signal lines aligning, and again that bullish divergence. So when these align, we call it the four horsemen. It's not often they all align, and so again those tend to be the bigger moves, as well as sort of back here we saw it, and earlier back before. Incidentally, the monthly time frame, these have only triggered 4 times on just the early reversal indicator, and each time at the market cycle bottom. And I won't go all the way back, but here, and of course here in September of 2023, when I was pounding the table to get into these markets. All right, so let's take a look at this chart here and the graphic that I was showing you a moment ago. I'm trying to clean up this chart here for you guys, but this is what I want to talk to you about, and I'm going to show you in greater detail. The M2 global liquidity always precedes Bitcoin, to some degree, 8 to 12 weeks ahead. And so if we overlay this on the price action, let me go back to a weekly and make that overlay a little bit better. We can see that we are looking pretty close to what looks to me like a breakout scenario where M2 is ready to go higher, and so Bitcoin is also still in a bullish phase. I do talk about that in more detail in my new 2025 Blood in the Streets report, which you can find at moonstream.io/report, moonstream.io/report, and you'll go to a page like this. So let you download it immediately. The report looks like this. Again, I wrote the first version back in 2022, in December of 2022, when we had come down to the 16,500 level. I had forecasted that level 5 months ahead of time. People thought I was crazy. They laughed at me in Facebook, but I was right. And from there, I was pounding the table, get in the markets. The blood in the streets is in the streets, and that's the time to get in. And so I've rewritten this because I think we are at a similar time when Bitcoin's about to go much higher. Here's where I originally posted that on May 19th of 2022. The Bitcoin would bounce to 32K, then to 22K, and then down to 16.5. Now I said July 1st. It actually was later. It was about 5 months later, but it exactly came down to that level, stayed there for a while. I talk about the cycle of investor emotions. Where are we in this cycle? I think we're right here on optimism and excitement, ready for that next bull phase in the markets this year, potentially to 150 to 180K or even 200K, which I've talked about before on this channel. The Wyckoff patterns that I'm seeing, pretty simple version here. When it's oversold, this is where whales and institutions are accumulating, then they mark up price, it gets overbought like we saw going into January. So we've sold off, and a lot of the institutions and whales and now ETFs were dumping, so in the markdown phase. But really where we are now is in an accumulation phase coming out of this. So if we say in phase B was when we went up to 100K back in November last year, and then we've been selling off ever since with some pushes higher to 109K, etc. But now we're coming out of support of this accumulation zone, and I think this is what we're ready to see as a break to new all-time highs, some zigzagging around to retest the old 100K, 110K region, and then blast off. So I do believe this is what's happening. Here's a visual here on the last 4-year cycles, the last 4 of these, where each time we had a bit of a pullback and stagnation after the halving, and then we rocketed higher. So here in 2016, 2020, and now we've gone sideways for a bit longer, but with all of the uncertainty with tariffs and all of these other things which are being sorted out, I do think this will be resolved, and then it's up only and to the right. Here's that global M2 chart again, showing this accumulation zone or the bottoming zone of the M2 global supply, which did bottom and has been heading higher for the last 8 to 10 weeks now. So Bitcoin's ripe for a big move higher, I think, in the next couple weeks, around that early May timeframe, when we see the daily and weekly market cycle lows due to be putting in. So all of this confluence is lining up for a big major move to the upside. So I talk about in this why this pullback is different from 2022, and some other examples like Netflix. If you had bought $10,000 in Netflix and held it all through the last 20 years, you would have $35 million. Now, it takes a lot of stamina and commitment to do that, but the point being, when you were buying the dips, buying when the blood in the streets on the internet bubble, were huge opportunities with Amazon, Netflix, etc. So I will say this, that we could still come down to the 70K zone. This won't be straight up, but I do believe we're going to see some much higher prices here in the coming months. I talk about exit strategies, and of course, Baron Rothschild's famous quote, "Time to buy is when there's blood in the streets, even if it's your own." And so now is what we're seeing. A lot of people have been selling out, getting out of crypto entirely, a lot of liquidations. All the weekends are selling, so I think that this is an excellent time to be looking at these markets again. And also there's a couple videos here for some things you might want to know about. But of course, here with global fear, Warren Buffett also says, be fearful when others are greedy, be greedy when others are fearful. So we can see this fear and greed indexed right around 30 right now. We've seen it as low as 15 March 10th, so about a month ago, all the way down to 15, so low. Prices almost always bounce from those levels. Similarly, when we get into extreme greed around 88, when we saw November 20th, 2024, that's when the market started to sell off and start to accumulate recently. So anyway, get that report. It's moonstream.io/report. And to get back into the TA here, I wanted to show you this, which we just covered. Another thing I want to talk to you about is the IBIT, which we have been covering. This is the 4-hour IBIT, and of course that is the ETF from BlackRock, and I've been following that since its inception and following the chart and noticing that these gaps here, like the CME gap, they tend to act as magnets for prices to backfill. And so we've seen virtually all of these. Up until this point, they were 100% would backfill. So back here in August of 24, we had this big gap down, and essentially this is a Wall Street product now. So if you're not sure what I'm talking about, after hours, after 4 p.m. when the stock market closes, or over the weekends, you know, those prices don't update. But because crypto is a 24-hour market, we can have these fair value gaps where they gap up or down. And the point is, the exact mechanism I don't want to get into right now, but they do try to fill these gaps. So this big gap down, they pushed up and filled it here. There was a couple months where it stopped working. So I thought. There's a few of them down here that didn't fill. We had this big gap up, and I'm like, I don't think we'll fill this because we're shooting up, probably going to 100K again on Bitcoin. But sure enough, look what happened. We sold off right into this zone to fill this trading gap. So the only significant one that hasn't filled yet and is acting as a magnet for price is this gap from November 6th, 2024. And so certainly possible that they bring price down into this range to fill that gap. And then I think that would be a huge time to buy. That would coincide with 70K Bitcoin. But I'm not sure we get that. I think if we come down and retest this level, again, Bitcoin would be in the 76K range. Let me open this up a little bit so it's easier to see. There, if we come down and retest or have a higher low, then I think we're really going to have a great chance to break through these sell orders. We'll probably push up to that 87, 88K region, pull back, break through, retest, push higher. So the IBIT, though, is one of the things we're watching. On the other hand, if we do break above this parallel channel and hit these sell areas, pull back, break up, pull back, this is the other scenario, and either one are fine with us. But I don't think we're going to be seeing much lower prices in Bitcoin. And some people are coming out and calling for still $1 million Bitcoin by this year. I think that's a bit crazy. And always be aware of the hype cycle. When the big talking heads start upping their price estimates, it's because they have a lot of Bitcoin and they need someone to sell it to. So always be wary of those extreme price targets. Here's a liquidity study that I did last year, and it's a lot to look at here, but essentially these wavy lines are the liquidity cycles, and generally when liquidity bottoms out and starts to turn higher is when we break new all-time highs. Down here, liquidity bottomed out and started to break over the prior all-time high here in 2021, and similarly we were watching this very carefully here. Liquidity bottomed out, started to turn higher, we had that push to all-time high, and then liquidity sort of pulled back for a bit. Now this is a monthly chart and it's delayed, and so I do believe this is starting to push up higher. And these are the different countries and central banks, these different colors. And so we have the European Central Bank and the US leading the liquidity charge for going higher. So I do think we're ripe for seeing this kind of a move, and typically we don't see it start to bottom out for quite a bit longer here. And so anyway, we'll keep an eye on that. As far as other coins here, let's take a look at Solana. Solana and Bitcoin are the ones I'm watching. I think ETH has some real challenges, so I'm not buying ETH, but I have been buying Solana since these green buy blocks. If you don't have these yet and you're curious about these signals, these custom signals that we use, just go to cryptomastery.org/pro. Just cryptomastery.org should forward you there, and our pro signals have been excellent. and helping to navigate these bounces. So here we had the early reversal indicator, this green arrow. And if you're an experienced trader and saying, well, that's cute, you have an arrow, that's just the visualization of this, the actual oscillator, which was the accidental discovery. I won't tell you what's going on in here, but one of my partners is a quant engineer and a programmer and a former hedge fund trader. So this is where I believe we're catching institutional buying and selling. And because nobody wants to look at that, we use arrows on the chart and look for confluence. So bullish early reversal indicator, the trend strength indicator going green above 20, and then our signal line green, our RSI Pro showing bullish divergence. So caught this little boost right here on the daily time frame. Also on the weekly, seeing a similar setup. I think Sol is going to run probably to 150, 160, 170, and 80 in this region, but ultimately much higher in the 350, over 300 again. So early reversal indicator, trend strength indicator, I have an alert saying crossing up above the 20 line, and then my note to self is buy, buy, buy. That's a powerful signal, but it's got to get up here for me to confirm, or for that to confirm for me. All right, so what else? If we want to look at a couple other things here, we're watching like helium. Helium's been showing some interesting strength, and these are not buy or sell recommendations, but big buy block here. This fluorescent block is money flow. Big orders came in and actually bought the bid, bought at market, and so we take note of that. On a weekly time frame, we want to see it's back above prior kind of resistance support area around $3.30. But here's where we're seeing that TSI breaking above 20. Right as soon as that happened, we saw a nice little surge in the last couple days, and our signal line also going green. So these are powerful signals. If you're wondering what they are, some of these are amalgamations and combinations of MACDs and other things that our quant engineer partners created. All I can say, these are the best signals I've ever used. We've created them, we've been fine-tuning them, and so if you don't have these, make sure to check out cryptomastery.org and get those. Try them out. Trust me, you'll love them. I do a once-a-month live training on how to use them, and all of our M3 Active Trader members love these as well. So anyway, looking at a couple more of these, we have Aptos. A lot of this not quite yet ready yet, still in a downward trending parallel channel, and just kind of waiting and watching on Stacks and AIOZ. I did buy some more Filecoin today because seeing our signals, a bullish early reversal signal, high or low, coming out of a buy block zone. And some of my targets on this that we share in our members, a 45x, but that is not even the higher target that I have. I think there's potential, maybe not this cycle, but I think this could have and see much, much higher targets on a Fibonacci target of up to 300x, 295x. But that would be a huge, huge increase in market cap. We're not looking at that for now. We're looking at the base hits coming out, buying low, and selling into these sell blocks. So that's really all I can see going on in the markets here today. Hopefully that's helpful. It's a waiting game. We want to kind of see how things pan out over the next couple weeks. Just jumping back over to Bitcoin and maybe take a look at the total market cap. The problem with total market cap, all of this sell pressure up in this range. So it's going to be a bit of a battle for Bitcoin, and a lot of this is Ethereum also, and some of the alts. And so if we look at sort of total 2 without Bitcoin, a lot of sell pressure here, which again, a lot of this is Ethereum, because if we go to total 3, which is everything but Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's not quite as bad. It's not quite as bad. So I could see we have another altcoin rally, altcoin season potentially, but the Bitcoin leads. Bitcoin and Solana are going to lead the charge and have to break through a lot of that resistance. But if we can get up in this range, going to see a huge run up in the alts. And also we have finally DeFi is bottoming in the buy zone. I think we could see some interesting bounces here and at least up to this range on DeFi. So let's take a look at what that could be from here in general, around 46%, 50%, yeah, up to, so anywhere from 40 to 50% on the DeFi projects. So you want to keep an eye on some of these like Lido Finance and Ondo, and Aave should do very well with that. All right, you guys, I think that's about all I wanted to cover here. I don't want to really get into Bitcoin dominance, ETH dominance, and there is a study I've been doing on USDT. If you haven't seen that, go look that up on TradingView and just Google Brett Fogle TradingView, and you'll be able to find that. Other videos we're going to be doing soon and looking at things like the secured overnight financing rate. And but for the most part, I wanted to give a quick update on Bitcoin and just see if we don't push higher from here. I think we'll come back down about 10% or so, 15% into this buy block, and then hopefully double bottom and then cruise out of there to new highs after chopping through. It's going to take a little while after chopping through these sell blocks, but I think we could get there in the October-November range. So once again, go over to moonstream.io/report. And if you like this video and content, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Put the bell on so you don't miss a video. And it really helps us get the word out to more people. YouTube kind of hides these things, and they need that social proof of more of you liking them, commenting, all those kind of things. Would really appreciate it. All right, you guys, thanks so much. We'll do more of these going forward, and I hope you have a great weekend.